I'll tell you the worst thing. I think what really set off this, like, I don't know, I guess you could call it like insecurity, whatever was bothering me. Um, I was I was watching a little bit of Pegasus Lounge, this channel that came up on my feed. He's an e-commerce guy. Specifically, he's like, reviewing the way other people on YouTube do various forms of e-commerce. And one of his I think his big strategy, I think he's like trying to do a course for like teaching people how to do different forms of e-commerce.
Well, if you're going to talk about the boogeyman, I guess we're going to boogie. Hey, what's going on, loungers? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Mason T, and I'm a 20+ year importer and product developer. I make videos about all levels of e-commerce when it comes to dealing in tangible goods. I'm highly critical of the reseller space because that is the beginner space, and most of the mistakes are made in the beginner area of business. So today's video is going to be very, very special, where we're going to be doing reseller versus reseller, where we pit Joe versus Ethan in a death match. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to do anything like that. Actually, what I plan to do is that I want to show you guys two videos that I watch, because both of these resellers are also YouTube creators as well. And most of the content that they create is mostly vlog style of their daily lives. Now, this one particular video I thought was super interesting, and it was called My eBay Reseller Therapy Session, where I was actually even mentioned in this video. Now, you got to see that the way that it starts off is that he talks about that this is just him talking to himself and pretty much putting out, working things out in his mind of stuff that he believes that he needs to hear. So for me watching this video, I kind of sort of get to be a fly on the wall and then hear everything that he has to say without having any doubts whatsoever that he is not telling the truth. I believe everything that he said in this video. Now, I can't play the whole thing for you because then this video would be too long, but we will summarize generally all the things that I have noted down in this video. So normally what I do is that I would download the whole transcript to this and then throw it into an AI summary generator and then get the proper notes. That way I didn't really miss anything. So here are my summary notes based on the video that Ethan put out. So I'm just going to read a couple of the green flags, the yellow flags, and the red flags for you guys. You could pause and read the rest yourself. Reseller uses video as a therapy session to reflect on eBay business, sharing personal insights and struggles. Struggles with self-consciousness from social media and comparing his business to high-earning resellers, causing negative self-talk.
I'm comparing myself to their business. I'm like, why am I not making as much money? I'm getting myself so stuck and feeling like I'm not doing enough or I'm not doing something right, when this is what I built and I did it like this on purpose. I keep forgetting that.
Values time, freedom, and modest lifestyle over wealth. Reselling restored confidence during the tough college years. Is frustrated by eBay and YouTube's focus on money. Feels insecure after watching critical e-commerce content such as Pegasus Lounge. Now here's where it gets interesting. He started reselling in 2021 after finding success with thrift store items, leading to him quitting his part-time job. He highlights printer ink and toner cartridges as his favorite items to sell due to the ease of shipping and high profit margins. Now, Ethan mentions Profit First Reseller, and that is Joe. And Joe, I believe, is a subscriber of this channel because he has commented on my videos many times right after it released. So I decided to head on over and watch some of Joe's content. Now, this is the video that I watched from Profit First Reseller because the title was so compelling to me. Rambling thoughts on how hustle culture failed me as a business owner. So that really sparked my curiosity. As I watched this particular video, here are the notes that I got for that one. Joe, as a Profit First Reseller, reflects on his eBay business and hustle culture. Worried about glamorizing the reseller lifestyle without discussing costs. He's influenced by people like Gary Vee, Tim Ferriss, and Seth Godin. Prefers solo work over scaling. I want to interject here and just say that you could have solo work and still scale at the same time. We would just outsource that work. His past business of food cart and restaurant that focused on scaling really distracted him from spending a lot of time with his family because he was managing so much staff. His current eBay business is designed for lifestyle, prioritizing family time. and he rejects the hustle culture's push for perpetual growth, values job control and joy. So do I, actually. Business expenses drop when sick, unlike larger businesses with ongoing costs. He finds fulfillment in providing for family, not just the work itself. Encourages soul searching to build a business that suits personal desires. So if we had to have a concise take on exactly what is Ethan's worldview centers on valuing time, freedom, and a modest lifestyle over wealth, using eBay reselling to gain control and confidence after college struggles. He prioritizes flexibility to be present for his future family, enjoys clothing sales for personal passion, and learns from the reselling community. However, he grapples with the envy of high-earning resellers yearning for better results without increased effort, and struggles to reconcile ambition with his intentional choice of a low workload business reflecting tunnel vision that overlooks scalable opportunities like ink dealership. Now let's contrast this to Joe. Joe's worldview prioritizes personal fulfillment and family presence over societal pressures for growth or hustle. Influenced by Tim Ferriss and Seth Godin, he designs his eBay reselling business for flexibility, low overhead, and joy, rejecting the need to scale. He values self-love, embraces flaws, and sees work as a means to support meaningful family moments and contribute to others, critiquing the American ethos of perpetual growth for a sustainable, intentional lifestyle. So I would say that Ethan actually shares a lot of the same worldviews as Joe does. However, Joe makes 4 times the amount of sales that Ethan does. So what is happening here? So here we're going to do a little dive into Joe's store. Now, mind you, Joe leaves a link to his store in all of his video descriptions, so I'm not doxing the guy, okay? Anyways, so if I take a look at some of his listings over here, I believe one of his best performing categories is actually in the video game console stuff. So when I go ahead and open listings like this one, and maybe this one, and maybe this one, I think, right? So when we look at it over here, you can see that Joe's listing says 510 sold. Now, when you look at the next one, it says 63 sold over here, and then it says another 206 sold. So Joe is not your average reseller, is he? He is very keen on what is happening over here. And if I go ahead and I scroll down and I show you when we view all revisions here, Joe has had this listing since January of 2025. So he's been doing this particular listing at 500 Wii boats, okay, for 5 months already. You know what I mean? And this is what I'm talking about. This now triggers eBay to recognize this item as a high-ranking listing. When you look at how many times it's been favorited over here, the 325 times. Now, as a reseller, do you have a listing like how Joe has a listing? So even though when we come back to Joe's categories, it's not like Joe doesn't have a whole bunch of other one-off items, but over time, as he's working, as he's doing stuff, he's starting to notice, and now he's doing the right stuff, whether it is intentional or intuitively, it is happening for him. Now, Ethan's shop, Reloop Clothing, does a lot of broad categories because you have women's shoes, women's clothing, men's shoes, men's clothing. These are very, very big categories. So when you look at Ethan's sales over here, when we go over to how many feedbacks that he has, and we click on this, Ethan has roughly about 50 feedbacks a month. And then when we contrast this to Joe's store over here, Joe has about 202 feedbacks a month. So does this mean that one seller is definitely making more money than another seller? No, not necessarily, but this is one metric that showcases the amount of traffic that one seller has over another seller. And when you see 200 versus 50, it is likely that the one with the more traffic is making more money. So in the past on Ethan's videos, he has thrown up his numbers before. And then you can see over here, this particular video came from one of his best months, which came out to $9,490 in the month of April from the 1st through the 30th. Now, this is a screenshot from one of Joe's vlogs where he displays one of his worst months, actually. Now, you can see over here in the past 30 days that he only has $30,000. But when you look at the last 90 days, he has $117,000, which means Joe can easily do $40,000 in sales per month if he wanted to, thus making it about 3 to 4 times the amount of sales than what Ethan is doing. So So in a past video, I have talked about using the business strategies of what I personally do in private labeling and trying to apply it over to what reselling is. And for that, we need to go over to my whiteboard. So here, this is basically a flowchart of exactly how my business works. Now, this is basically talking about how I sell auto accessories. Now, if I had to go over and then show you guys how we applied it over to what reselling is, reselling essentially has 4 key issues that needs to be corrected. And over here, I have a diagram of how I corrected those main issues. Now, this is using orthopedic sneakers of Hokas and On Clouds, because if you follow this channel, we have this ongoing joke of selling Hokas and On Clouds constantly because of tech and sports. Now, what I want to show you here, okay, is that if anything, Joe's business actually follows the same principle that's happening over here, whether he realizes it or not. So when you think about what Joe's shop is, Joe is hyper niche focused. Not everything. He still has a lot of one-off stuff, but his stuff that is very successful, the one that has 500 sales history on it, is hyper niche focused game console accessories, controllers / cables. So if you have watched the original video about how to do reselling level 1.5, where I try to elevate you from level 1 e-commerce to level 1.5, this is basically another example, and we're just going to use Profit First Reseller as the example over here. So basically what he has in his shop, if you look through Joe & Co, is that like he's got, you know, accessories for Wii, for Switch, for N64, for Sony stuff, Xbox, and some Sega things, right? Okay, so essentially what he has over here is exactly what I taught in a previous class, which is semi-replenishable listings. Whatever he's buying, he's trying to get a bulk amount of it. And hopefully he has his settings, which I speculate is the same thing. Listings stay active when you're out of stock. Am I right, Joe? Leave a comment and let me know if I'm right. So he changes it so that basically every single time he could get more Wiimotes, then he would just replenish that listing. That way he doesn't lose any of the metadata. This is taking advantage of what the algorithm actually is, not that daily bank draft nonsense and, you know, eBay is going to shut you down for lack of activity. No, not at all. He has retained the metadata behind this, and that is very, very important. So what is actually going on in the grand scheme of things? This is exactly what I teach. Build catalog parallel to popular product lines over here. So what Joe has in his shop is parallel to popular product lines. Now, what could Ethan possibly have done? Well, this is his missed breakthrough opportunity as an entrepreneur, because he specifically spoke about how he had great success with doing ink in the past. So here's Ethan talking about a potential eureka moment, and he glosses over it.
One of the things that really helped me out was that was right around the time that Amazon bin stores were gaining in popularity. They opened one in my college town. It's called Bin Crazy. And you know, I would get anything I could find that was good. But the one thing that really kept me going was there was tons of printer ink. You know, like sometimes it'd be like the box was open or damaged, but the cartridge wasn't open. Like it was still like sealed in plastic or something. Or it was just completely brand new. I don't know how it even got to the bins place to begin with. But no one cared about it. It all just sat there. You know, come the end of the week, I'm getting these little cartridges for $1 a piece, or it's a fill-a-bag sale. I'm getting tons of them for like dirt cheap. And I'm selling them all for 20, 25 bucks a piece. You know, every now and then I get like a $50, $60 one too. Like something like crazy, like a combo pack or like a toner cartridge. Like, and people just didn't care. It was just sitting there for me. And that is the best stuff to sell at the beginning, because it was so easy to ship. I just bought a pack of poly mailers off Amazon, stick it in there. Like, so easy. So easy. I miss that. I wish I could sell more printer ink, man. That was a good time. Let me check what, how long we...
Good times. And then what does he do immediately afterwards?
Crazy. I did not last there very long because of how crazy the people were. So, whew. Fun times.
Fun times.
What did I say now? I don't know. I'm listening to some Peter Millard golf pants. These are
Ethan, you gave that up and then you went to golf pants. So while I totally understand that some people might say, well, Peg, some people don't want to get into product development, but you just saw the way that Ethan spoke about these ink cartridges, he was pretty much gushing over it. So if I were to ask, well, aren't there other sellers that also specialize in ink cartridges? And the answer is, sure there is. When we do a search for ink cartridge over here, there are 370,000 plus listings for ink cartridges. And so when I look at who's selling stuff, like this guy buying more, paying less, and then, you know, looking at his store over here, you can see that he has all sorts of other ink cartridges, as well as the next guy who is selling all sorts of cleaning solutions. And then this is the back end of his store where he has all sorts of other kind of chemicals and stuff, all inkjet printer related, as well as this guy who sells a whole bunch of the things that, like, you know, he has his own white label version of it. So it looks like it's HP, but actually it's Gatapo. So the way that I see it is that reselling, its culture and the advice that they normally give constantly pushes you towards that if you want to make more money, we have to increase the workload. And that's not necessarily true. The question is, did you even look into wholesale of ink? Now, I personally found a website over here that is an ink wholesaler. And you can see that it says shop discounts on popular ink and toner brands. So if I don't know anything about this industry, I could study my competitors and my suppliers. That right here, there's probably a list of the most popular ink cartridges from every major brand out there. So I start to have an inkling, a direction of how to begin building my ink cartridge empire should I want to go in this direction. Guys, if you're enjoying the content right now, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And I wanted to say that recently I've gotten a lot of comments of people trying to get in touch with me, and there's pretty much no way to, even though I try to give out my email. So I have decided to go ahead and build a website because I do have extra hosting space. But I want to say that it's still in the works right now. That's why I'm not giving out the URL just yet, because I'm not finished with it. I don't even know what I'm fully going to do with this thing yet, okay? But I will say I don't have any Patreons. I don't even have any affiliate links. I don't even have a buy me a coffee, all right? I don't do any of those things because I'm not big on selling courses, and I don't think classrooms really work. I think that if you really need help taking your business to the next level, it's not like reselling, where reselling, well, everybody's just trying to get into the space, so they're willing to do a little bit of everything. Yeah, I think you could have a classroom for the basics, but once you want to go to level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, then everybody needs tailored one-on-one mentorship in order to make that happen. So you're going to need tailored consulting, okay? I'm going to be honest right now. I don't think I could take on more than 6 people every single month. So space would be super limited if we decide to do this. I just want to put this out there right now that it is in the works. All right, back to the show. I make this criticism very often in my channel, which is for the things that we go out and that we try because we don't know what's going to sell, that is understandable. But by the time we do have any success whatsoever in our business with successfully selling certain things, why haven't we not thought to ourselves, hey, how do we do more of the stuff that moved very, very well? And that's what's happening. Rather than to pursue and look into more replenishable items in the ink accessory stuff, right? Just like how Joe is looking for more game console controllers and stuff like that. We haven't looked into this at all. And had we done that, we could have developed a business where we are now hyper niche focused on printer inks and toners and drums. So what would be the top brands? HP, Brother, Epson, Canon, Lexmark, Xerox. And then if we were to do something like this, I would say you would go from semi-replenishable listings to actually classic replenishable listings. And if you're sold out, you're sold out. It's okay. Once you get more, you do the same thing. The listings will stay active when you are out of stock, and then you replenish it as you go. Again, what are we doing here in Ethan's shop? We are building a catalog parallel to popular product lines. Now, this is the one that gets really interesting. So when I click on categories over here, and then when I pull down toner cartridge, look at the top brands: Brother, Canon, Dell, HP, Samsung, Xerox. Very close to my estimations. Now, because I'm a professional importer, of course, I'm able to source things more easily than you can. But the question is, did you even look into this field? Because I spent 5 minutes on it, and I was able to find the prices as well as minimum order quantities for these, as well as these, and finally these. Curious question. Are any one of you out there competitive online gamers at any time? I used to be really into MOBA games and stuff. Now, the reason why I ask this is because if you play online video games, people talk a lot of trash, and that's just the nature of competitiveness. However, there was this one time that I heard one guy arguing with another guy so much that it actually hurt his real feelings, because people are always throwing stuff around like stupid face, poopy pants, and yo mama jokes. And it doesn't really mean anything because people don't really know each other. But when one kid said to another kid that you don't know how to align yourself with your team and you don't understand metas, oh, that actually hurt. That actually hurt his feelings to the point where he was genuinely upset. So the question is, do you know what meta is? Meta stands for most effective tactic available. That is the acronym for it. And I believe that many times when we are doing something, whether it is gaming or business, we need to think about the metas in this given space. So when you think about what is the meta of e-commerce and selling things online, it is definitely the automation of sales, because that's the only way you don't have to be physically part of every single sale that happens. But the question is, in your field of reselling, how can you do this without replenishable products? So when we think about the comparison between Joe and Ethan, Joe is kind of already there with semi-replenishable listings and buying bulk Wiimotes. But Ethan isn't doing that right now. He's doing one pair of golf pants at a time. And therefore, the results are going to be different because Joe is practicing the meta and Ethan isn't. So there is a book that I highly recommend. It's called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Now, in it, he explains that there are three main roles in every single business startup that you have to fill when you are a one-man operation. Basically, the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. The entrepreneur, we all understand what it is. The manager is the person who always has to put out the fires, order more supplies. If there are any compliance issues, that's all the managerial role. Now, the technician is where most things starts off as a hobby, whether you are baking pies or trying to do reselling. It's that thrill of the hunt in that technician role that is the fun portion. That's what you like to do at the beginning, from taking photos and listing until the business starts to get overwhelming because you're doing this over and over again and you have no chance thinking about your business like an entrepreneur. Now, when you think about what the difference between how Joe is operating his business and how Ethan is operating his business, Joe has clearly had more time spent in the entrepreneurial seat, and that's why his back-end settings are different. That's why he is hyper niche focused on his products, and his results speak for itself. I already know what's going on. Intuitively, Joe knows what he's doing right now, and he has definitely had a lot more time to think about the business wearing the entrepreneurial cap than Ethan ever has, because Ethan's mindset right now is still, well, I think if I have to make more money, then I have to be like those other workhorses and do a lot of work. But that's not what I'm about. So therefore, this is the situation that I am. What I'm trying to say is, I don't want you to be a workhorse either. I do want you to spend more time with the family. However, if you start changing up your settings and thinking strategically, you could start building towards something. Now, the problem is that the culture and the advice that people are given and constantly fed in the reselling space causes them to think a certain way. And for that reason, I need to play this clip for you. So we're going to continue to be a fly on Ethan's wall and listen to his opinion of me as well as himself.
And he's been going in on that and like why he doesn't like that and all this stuff. And being someone that posts videos on YouTube, I'm just like extra like where I'm like, oh shoot, like this is how this is perceived. Like, do people, like, does everyone think this is like a waste of time or like not a good idea? He does give it like credit. He's like, this is a great place to like start and learn about e-commerce, but you know, ultimately he's not a huge fan for long term. But he's, I don't know, I just get way too in my head, just like thinking about my business, like, oh, is this right, is this wrong, whatever. I need to stop.
What do you mean you need to stop? You're on a roll right now. Self-reflection is a very good thing, especially in business. So here's the thing. If Joe ever wanted to get into wholesale or developing his own controllers or anything more in this direction, he could absolutely do that on his own. He doesn't need my guidance in order to do that because he's already half the way there to being a more established seller than most people on eBay. So the more I think about it, I'm not too sure if Joe stumbled on this particular niche or if this was completely intentional, but it's actually pretty genius because when we talk about Etsy-ish items that do very well on Etsy, well, what is a very eBay-ish item? Well, if you wanted brand new controllers, you probably just hop on Amazon and be done with it. But if you're looking for something a little more cost-effective, especially for previous consoles, then I think eBay is the way to go, especially for this item. So in other words, Joe has a very eBay-ish item. So coming back to the digital whiteboard, when we think about what Joe's shop is versus the hypothetical shop that Ethan could have should he ever decide to look into ink cartridges, I think the potential of Ethan's niche could outperform Joe's niche very easily, because how many people are blowing through used controllers every day versus how many people are blowing through ink cartridges every day? All right, guys, let's wrap things up with a little bit of final thoughts. If you follow this channel, you already know that I love making these kinds of videos where we ask ourselves the very, very difficult questions. Now, today's question is actually more than just a question of the day, a question of the week. It's more like a question of your whole career, actually. Are you in a position just like Ethan where you are doing reselling right now? You're trying your hand at business, but the work is bogging you down a lot because you're chasing sale after sale after sale and you're worried about keeping your sales up and the eBay algorithm happy. So therefore, you might have missed out on your entrepreneurial breakthrough potential idea. You might have missed out on your eureka moment, just like how Ethan is talking himself into it and talking himself out of it. Anyways, guys, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a big like. And if you learned something, please consider subscribing. As always, I'll see you guys in the next. Take care.